Hey guys, and welcome to another live video. Sorry. Anyway, welcome to another live wood turning video from BS with AJ. Today we're going to be turning another couple Christmas ornaments. I've got a couple of pieces of apple wood actually, and I wanted to turn those into Christmas ornaments because they're not really big enough to turn into anything else. It was just a little bitty piece of a stick that I've had in the shop. I just happened to come across actually. And so I got one of them turned. I just wanted to kind of see how it was going to turn before I did a video. And like I said, I was kind of out here anyway. I figured, well, might as well do a live video. I've not done one of them in a little while. Let's see here. There we go. That ain't too bad. Let me make sure it's tightened up and everything before we go too much further. So this is the apple wood that I turned already. And it's pretty neat looking. It's got a couple different colors and it's got that yellowy and the whitey look. Whitey, yellowy. Wow, okay. I can't talk very good. Anyway, so anyway, it's a little bit different. So I really like that. And I don't have a lot of access to this type of wood or anything. So I've got a few pieces laying around the shop. I've got to come up with some better ideas for than just Christmas ornaments because that's the majority of what I've been turning here recently. And I'd like to do something different. But you know, it's that time of year. So anyway, this is what I came up with for the first one that I made here. Just kind of, like I said, just practicing on it, seeing how it was going to turn and everything. And it actually turns very nice. It sands really smooth. I only had to sand it down with 120 or 180. I forget whatever. I think it's 120. And so it come out pretty nice. I didn't even have to sand it with 240 or anything, which is great because anytime you're saving time sanding is great. Though there is an issue though, as I started turning down thinner and thinner because this came from a small branch, which is this right here. It's just probably a little over an inch in diameter. Let me talk. God, getting tongue tied. I apologize, guys. Anyway, so because it's only an inch in diameter and because this is a little limb, basically the center part or the pith is the most unstable part of it. So the closer you get to it, the more unstable it got. And as I got closer to here, the back end started wobbling significantly. So I won't be able to do anything really thin, I don't believe. If I can do that, I've got 3 chunks right here of cherry wood that I just ordered, and I just got it in. I can probably do something really thin with it, and I really love the way the cherry looks. Actually, I found a really good deal on it, so I ordered 4 pieces that are 2 inch by 2 inch by 18 inches long. So I cut one of them up into 3 pieces here to get 3 different Christmas ornaments. I just figured I'd get some made. All the ones that I've had so far, I've sold to various people. The majority of them went to a local shop here. And, oh, okay, never mind. But anyway, I thought I seen a comment pop up there, but I couldn't quite read it. Anyway, but so I'll be turning at least one of these here in a few minutes. But I wanted to start with this because I had the jaws. I had to change the jaws in my chuck here. These are actually pin jaws, and I'm not really supposed to use those for round stuff technically, I guess. I still do, but whatever. But I had to change it out for these bigger pieces because I've got an actual set of round jaw. Or, you know what? Let's just start turning. I'm talking too much. Heck with it. All right, so yeah, that's the game plan. We're going to go ahead and just kind of figure something out with this. As I said a while ago, I'm not really going to be able to turn anything really thin like I did on some of the other ones, so we'll just kind of have to make it up as we're going. So the first thing I've got to do is get rid of all these little bumps and stuff. It's not exactly straight, which is why I cut it in half. I wanted to do longer pieces, but it didn't work out that way because it had a pretty significant bow in the center of it, which is, again, why I ended up cutting it in half. With something small like this, if you're new to wood turning, I normally turn small items at a high RPM for a couple different reasons. One is because the smaller the item is, I can't really explain that, but basically it works out better. If you have a really large bowl, you need to turn it at a low RPM because it will end up going crazy. The inside's not going to spin as fast as the outside, basically. So the smaller you go, the faster I like to turn. It also makes it a lot smoother. I went ahead and sharpened up my tools because I tried it just a second ago, and it started tearing out, especially on this bark. It's really stringy, actually. But yeah, let's get started on this, and we'll go from there. Let me get my face shield on. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and get the majority of the bark off here so that way we can put it on the chuck. Alright, so we got the majority of the bark off there. We do have some wormholes through here, which is going to affect how thin we can turn that, of course. It's kind of full of sawdust right there, but the last one I had a couple of them, and most of it turned out, so it wasn't too big an issue. Alright, so I've got the majority of it turned off, but I'll go ahead and get it in the chuck, and I'll have to turn the rest of it off before I get too far, because this stuff's real stringy. And it kind of clogs up my tools, so it'll keep it from cutting nice, basically. All right, so like I said, I'm using pin jaws for this because it's the only thing small enough to hold this diameter. Technically speaking, according to the instructions that I got with it, you're not supposed to use it for round stock. It's only for like pin blanks, basically. And whatever. I just kind of do whatever I feel comfortable doing. And I suggest you do the same. If you don't feel comfortable doing something that way, definitely listen to the instructions and play it safe. I generally like breaking the rules just because it makes things a little easier on me. I can get a better end if I have it set in some type of, in the jaws here, as opposed to having like a thinner piece and then just cut it off flat. I don't really like the look of that, so I try to avoid it if I can. All right, so that's held on pretty good. Let's make sure it's gonna spin pretty good real quick. Turn it down real quick. There we go. That's working pretty good. Like I said, right now I'm just trying to get the majority of the bark off because it keeps clogging up my tools. So, all right, looks like we're pretty good. So we'll go ahead and start shaping it now. And I'm basically just going to be making this up as I go because that's just kind of how I do things, I guess. And so we're getting some wormholes down through here as well. But I kind of like the way some of that looks sometimes. I may end up changing the end here. I'm not sure how I feel about that just yet. I like him thinner, but I got to be careful because, like I said, the thinner I get this, the more it's going to wobble here in a minute. We'll mess with it just a little bit. All right, that looks a little bit better there. It's a little bit thinner. Like I said, I can't go too much, so kind of do what I can. I think I'm gonna probably maybe thin this out just a little bit more just to kind of smooth that out. It's kind of ripping the grain more than it's cutting it here. And I may be able to fix that with sandpaper, but it may not come out as well as I think. But I'll probably go ahead and do that just a little bit more and then sand and finish this end down here just in case it starts wobbling real bad, because that will cause an issue when I go to sand and finish it, of course. So let's do that. That's not too bad. We'll go ahead and sand that, and then I'll probably end up rounding that off and kind of tapering it down to a point here. These have got to be kind of simple because they're fairly fragile, I'd say. So we'll turn this down and go ahead and sand it with 120. Hold on, something's vibrating on me here. Make sure that's good and tight. That's tight. All right, let's try that again. This stuff really does. It sands really nice, and it cuts pretty clean as well, but it sands really nice. I like the way that feels. And that's just 120. So anyway, the finish I'm going to be using on these is just regular paraffin wax. You can buy blocks of it at the grocery store. Basically, just go to the canning section and you'll find boxes of this stuff. And the reason I like using this is because, one, it's cheap as crap. And two, It seals really well. If you just got to put a thin layer on it though. I did realize as I was making some of the other Christmas ornaments, if I didn't get a lot of that excess off of there, it would dull out really bad. So this works pretty well for little ornaments and stuff like that because it actually melt and seal them pores up, which is good. And like I said, if you leave too much of it on there though, it will dull out really bad. So you want to take a. I normally run it on there on the lathe, at a pretty high RPM. Melt it in with a rag that I normally use for. It's already got some buildup on here basically, so if I get into cracks where I can't get this block in there, it'll help fill up that stuff. And then I like coming back with a clean rag and wiping and going over it real quick just to get any excess off. Because like I said, if you leave it on there, it will dull out pretty bad and it just won't look as good. That's just kind of my personal preference though. There's all kinds of finishes you can use on it. If I had some shine juice ready and I wanted to put a bunch of pressure on there, it makes it shine up really nice, but you got to put a lot of pressure in with something that's kind of weak in the center of this like that. You got to put quite a bit of pressure on it and it could end up breaking it. So I just use a simple finish for stuff like this because it doesn't really matter. It's going to hang up on a Christmas tree, you know? All right, that feels pretty good. And it did kind of knock some of that dust off of the where the wormhole is right here. Sometimes I like leaving imperfections like that in wood a lot because I think it gives character to it and it looks pretty neat. But not everybody agrees, so you know, whatever you feel. I like leaving them, so that's what I like to do. All right, let's see. What do I want to do now? I don't know. I'll start doing it as I'll figure it out as I'm working on it, I guess. tell you what, because this is so plain, I'll add a couple of darker lines to it here. Let's see here, something like. As you can see, the slower I turn it, the more this wobbles here. I don't know how well you guys can see that. We'll go ahead and finish this section up here. One line darkened up a lot better than the other. I wish that would have worked out the same, but that's all right. so it's really starting to wobble here. I want to get some finish on there. I may just have to skip the sanding step. We'll see how it works out, basically. Let's turn it down and see how it wobbles real quick first. Oh, Lord. Yeah, that wobbles a lot. We'll just sand real quick. All right, good enough. Well, like I said, these are pretty plain here. These two that I made out of the apple wood because it's pretty fragile. I wish I could have thinned that down some more, and I wish I could have got them lines a little darker here. I need to make a tool to do that. I've got some old guitar strings, and if you set it up right, you can have a couple of handles on it and use that to burn in spots like that for like little accent points. I need to make some of them. I've got plenty of stuff to do it. I just need to do it. All right, so that's how that one come out here. Not anything too fancy or anything like that, but I like the way it looks because, like I said, it's that apple wood. And you've got some light and dark spots in here. Some of it's more yellow. Some of it's a lot whiter. It's a little different than what I've been doing. And so I figured I'd give that a try. So anyway, we'll set that to the side now. All right, so I've got a couple of different things that I can do. I've got this block of cherry here that I can mess with. I've got some really small stuff like this is actually olive wood that I ordered last year. And it came from, Jerusalem. That's where it come from. So, I don't know. I've made a couple of really thin ones like out of this stuff here. Something similar to, let me see. Something similar to this here. This is actually made out of, what was that made out of? Either cherry or maple, one of the two. I want to say it's maple. So I can do something like that with them. I've got this one that I started last year, the inside out one. The only thing about that is this olive wood doesn't glue up really well together. So I may not do that on camera because sometimes, because the wood is so oily, it actually will, the glue won't actually penetrate into the wood. So it may not hold together. I've had a couple of them come apart on me. And since this was glued up last year, I'm not sure how that came out. Maybe I'll do that in off camera. So yeah, I guess we'll just go ahead and do this block of cherry. So the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and we're going to have to change the jaws on this, so I don't have to do that here in a minute. If you have a lathe or if you're getting into wood turning or anything like that, I suggest you getting a chuck like this because they are very versatile. And they come in handy a lot. Yeah. You don't want to lose these screws though. Once I get this chained, we'll start turning that. The first thing I'm going to have to do is get it turned around so I can fit it into the jaws. But I'd like to get ahead. So just set that and drop everything. Yep, that's what I wanted to do. All right, we'll go ahead and get our other jaws up here. I normally try and keep these in the same order. I don't know how much it actually matters. Number 4 is really the only one I believe makes that big of a difference. And it's actually labeled here on the check anyway. But this one here has a, there we go. Has that little slide that lines it up. I'm just going to lose all my tools real quick. No big deal, guys. Let's see here. Number 1. Sorry, this is going to take just a minute. I apologize. But I couldn't do it ahead of time because I was using that chuck, obviously, for the last ornament I made. So I guess I'm just going to keep talking to fill the void, the silence. I'm used to working with music, but because I'm recording with my phone, I can't play music because I'm using it to record. This is a little bit tedious, but I'd rather do it now and save just a little bit of time. I guess I need to put that in there before I put the screw on, huh? Why not? I'm starting to like doing these live videos because, one, I don't have to edit them, which is handy. I've got a bunch of videos on my computer I need to edit and upload, but it takes quite a bit of time to edit videos. So I procrastinate sometimes, you know, that's how it goes. So these live videos are pretty cool because I don't have to do any of that, and they still post as regular videos after I'm done with them, which is pretty neat. The downside is stuff like now when I'm just sitting here doing boring stuff. You guys have to deal with it. Sorry. What am I going to do? Stop the live video and start it up again in a minute? Oh, Lord. All right, so that's set up. We'll just set it to the side for now because we don't need it at first. Go ahead and get the box put away here. All right, here we go. So I've got this 2x2 block of cherry, and there's a possibility that there is a crack right here. Either that or it's just a discoloration in the wood, and I'm not sure which it is. But I got, like I said, I got these at a pretty good deal online. I can put a link down in the description once I'm done with this. So that way, if you're looking for some. So generally, the first thing you're gonna have to do is take your spur drive and drive it into there pretty good, because otherwise it's not going to grip on it. I didn't know that when I first started turning wood, and I just kind of tightened it up and hoped that it would stay. But then, you know, you start turning and you realize pretty quickly that whenever you touch the wood, it catches on that corner or something like that, and then this starts spinning. If it's not in there really well, then it's not gonna do much. All right, we got that pretty well ready to go. I probably need to sharpen my gouge real quick. So if you guys don't mind hanging out for just a minute, it doesn't take but a second. I just got to go plug it in. I'll be right back. I used to sharpen all these gouges by hand, and it took quite a bit of time, and you'd have to sharpen them quite often, so it wasn't really fun. But I ended up buying I think it's called the Wolverine or something like that. And basically, I've got an 8-inch grinder, and it sets up on this this jig basically on both sides, and you can use it to sharpen your gouges because the way these things are, they've got to they kind of, you've got to cut them at this angle, and you also have to have that radius on there too. So it's really handy, and I can just go over there real quick and just run it across on each side and be ready to go. And it doesn't take but a couple seconds versus 30 or 40 minutes. Depending on how detailed I wanted to get, of course. All right, so let's see how this is going to work here. We'll start it lower. All right, so it looks like everything's pretty well centered. We'll go ahead and start knocking these corners off. I bet that was no, it wasn't that big chunk. Okay. Yeah, we did have a chunk fly off of there. Yeah, oh well. That's why you got a face shield. We're going to need to sharpen that skew up here pretty soon. All right, got the majority of them turned off, and that's actually coming out fairly smooth, except for that one side where it's tearing out. But that's all right. We'll go on to another tool that'll work a little easier. So this is a carbide tool that I actually made. And, of course, you guys can't see it. Never mind. Don't worry about it then. All right, that ain't too bad. I've got a couple flat spots on the front here. I may turn it just a little bit more. Yeah, there is definitely a crack right there. Hopefully it's not too deep. And I made that carbide tool thinking I was going to use those a lot more, but I'm so used to using the traditional tools that I hardly ever use them. I'm just not used to them, so it's actually it's harder for me to use than it is to use the traditional tools to me. A lot of people start off using the carbide tools because they're easy to use when you're first starting, I guess. You just hold them flat as opposed to having to figure out what angle you need to have them at. But I'm so used to the traditional tools, I'm not really a big fan of them personally. Alright, so we got everything pretty good here. We'll go ahead and leave this on there for just a minute. Make sure everything's going to turn nice. Make sure that's good and secure. Go ahead and check one more time. Make sure it's good and tight. There we go. All right, here we go. Some of that's turning really nice. Some of it's not as well. We'll go ahead and sand this and finish it real quick the same way we were the other ones. That's not too bad. I'm liking the way that cherry looks. I really like that. All right, so now it's time to make some decisions as to what we want to do up here. I do kind of like the style where it just kind of tapers down and then has a little top piece here that's pretty nice. It's just a real simple, but also like the parts where it's got that rounded part and then a bead or two or something like that. So let's see. We may do the rounded part right here and then maybe taper it down. Let's kind of see how that works out. Sand it just a little bit more. All right. I think that's looking all right so far. I guess we'll go ahead and start tapering it down at this line. That way I don't have a double bead there. That way it'll look a little more like this, perhaps. Let's see what we can come up with here. I'm going to add some of this wood butter on here because it looks like some of it's not, some of the grain here is not picking up the wax that I was using here. We're having light spots show up. So to kind of remedy that problem, this is more of a paste. I rub it in real good, and then I can come back and get the majority of it off. It'll actually soak into the wood some. This is a mixture of beeswax and mineral oil. And like I said, it'll soak into the wood some. And then I can come back and dry it off real good and then put another coat of the paraffin wax over the top of it to seal it in good. Because this stuff you do have to reapply. This is what I normally use on kitchen related items. Because it's a food grade. Everything I use is food grade for that type of stuff. So, but it helps to get into these little crevices and stuff to help any discoloration from showing up as bad. Okay, it's got a pretty good coat on there. We'll go ahead and turn the lathe on and wipe off the excess. We'll go ahead and put another coat of the paraffin wax on the whole thing. Just to help seal it up real good. All right. We'll probably go ahead and thin that down, and that'll end up being the top of it. Not super crazy with detail on this thing, but it's pretty neat looking still, I believe. Try and fix it up with a skewer real quick. Well, where'd my rag go? Well, all right. Find another rag, I guess. One that ain't got stuff on. There we go. There we go. All right. All right, well, there's our final Christmas ornament here. Cherry's not taking it quite as well as the oak was before the paraffin wax that I've been using. Looks like parts of it are shining up real nice and other parts don't shine up quite as well. Or maybe it's just the color of the grain, I suppose. But that's all right. For a Christmas ornament, it looks pretty nice, and it's nice and smooth. So yeah, there's the one from Cherry, and these are the two real simple ones we made from Applewood earlier. So yeah, that's what we made today, and hope you enjoyed the live video. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and consider supporting BS with AJ on Patreon so we can do bigger and better projects for you guys. And I'll see you next week.